It's been a busy few weeks, both in the lead up, the live streams, and the subsequent second ascent of Burden of Dreams. And within this video today, we're going to try and unpick some of what's happened. But before we begin, Xa, you bastard. I went to Font for a 2-week holiday, and not only did Will have the audacity of climbing Burden of Dreams, but Xa betrayed me by reporting on it. So that's why we're here today. That's the real reason, Xa. I want to talk about Burden of Dreams.
Yeah, I think what Rob's trying to say is that he couldn't let go of the fact that he wasn't able to report on Burden, and as a result of that, we're doing a second tick list all about Burden just to make him feel a little bit better about it all.
I feel a little bit better. So now that the dust settled, grade-wise, where does Burden of Dreams sit? Because there's been, a lot of armchair internet punditry on whether or not it could be 9A+. What's the conclusion been? What's the big man himself had to say?
So having climbed it, Will's basically said that he agrees with Nalle's grading of Font 9A. And he's also said that he thinks that Honey Badger, his first ascent, could be hard 8C+, and that Alphane could be soft 9A, with Burden of Dreams coming in at a solid 9A grade.
And as for Alphane, I sort of feel, particularly from the comments on our YouTube channel, that people have been absolutely gunning for the downgrade on it. But it's like people are praying for it to be 8C+. But this week, Daniel Woods put out a video and an Instagram post of his various attempts and the fact that he has now called it a day for this season. It's not going to go down. This is Daniel Woods, another Font 9A boulderer, accomplished, experienced, and it kind of makes you realise, and it's something that Will alluded to in his post, is that when Will got on Alphane and when he got on Burden, he got stronger on these problems. He was actually almost stronger than the problem. Yeah. Now, the problem then is when you look at people trying Alphane, you're looking at Will, or you're looking at Sean, you're looking at Aidan Roberts, people who are at the absolute top end of their climbing career, when it looks easy. But it's probably not easy.
Yeah, probably not. I think that when people think about 9A for so long, it's been in relation to Burden of Dreams. And because Burden of Dreams, up until, a week ago, hadn't had that first repeat, it was really difficult for people to put a 9A grade out there because everyone would immediately compare it to this boulder that seemed impossible. So now that Will's done it, he's able to kind of contextualize the other boulders that are in and around that grade range. And actually, I think his confirmation of Alphane at 9A is probably the one that people are going to listen to the most because he's the only person who's done both of them.
And as for Will doing it, so when I left to go to Font, I was wondering whether or not he would. Now, I had no doubt in his ability to climb it because all you had to do was look at the first 30 minutes of his first live stream to realise that he had the potential. But there's a real difference in between having the potential to do it and actually doing it. We've all been on a climb, which we know we can do, but left having not done it because of one thing and the next. And I know Will was obviously really cautious about his skin. This time of year as well, in spring, it's going to get warmer and warmer, and conditions are potentially going to get worse and worse as the year goes on and on. What were your thoughts on whether or not he was going to do it? Were you expecting to? All I want to know is, were you expecting to betray me and present the tick list? That's what.
I was hoping for it. Yeah, I think that, like you said, we all knew. Well, we all expected that he could do it, and it, like you say, it was clear pretty much within that first 45-minute session that he live streamed that he had the physical ability to do it. When I spoke to Will at the end of March, it seemed as though the crux for him was that second move, which just seemed so low percentage that it really wasn't a case of changing the beta or adapting anything. It was really a case of just keeping trying until that one time that everything came together. So I was a bit concerned that the combination of skin and the weather getting a little bit warmer and the move being such a low percentage move could just be a perfect or imperfect storm that meant that he couldn't do it even though he was strong enough to do it.
I think it's that, coupled with, to an extent, the mystique that Burden has, as the first Font 9A, hasn't seen a repeat. And it's, for me, I think it's like that element of that mystique, coupled with Will lifting a lid on it with those live streams, it just felt like he was welcoming the climbing community in. It was like we were there with him on these sessions. And I think, like, I can't remember anything quite like it in all my years climbing, of basically being like, invited to the party and witnessing it all unfold. And I mean, it's amazing.
I think the closest thing we've had in recent years has been when Stefano got on silence and started kind of, or even when Pete did the crack on silence, like that. Those sort of things kind of gave an insight into this this route that had a similarly mythical status. And it's really interesting that we, like you say, we're kind of lifting the lid on these things that have been kind of climbing myths.
Yeah, and it's whether or not these people can do it, because in Stefano's case, he still hasn't climbed silence. In Will's case, he obviously has climbed burden. On the note of Stefano as well, because we're talking about Will having done it, Stefano must be vying for first place in the third repeat. Or hang on, second repeat.
Third ascent, second repeat.
He's
not who most people would have expected to be a kind of contender, especially since Sean's been trying it.
And he's a self-confessed lead climber as well. In his latest video, one of my favourite bits in that was him bringing out the beanie, because now he's a boulderer.
Yeah, joining the pack. I think he's, like you say, he's a self-confessed lead climber, but he's coming off the back of his hardest first ascent with Excalibur, which is essentially a massive board climb where he had to get a lot stronger in those kind of explosive moves and those really, really powerful moves on small edges. So he's probably in the best shape that he ever has been in terms of a boulder like Burden of Dreams or bouldering more generally.
And he's just managed the first move, and then he also managed, I think, moves 2 through to 5.
Yeah, so he managed the first move in isolation, and then he managed the kind of 4-move link from the second move through to topping the boulder out.
And we know that because I watched that bit about 10 times before we started filming today.
While Rob was talking to me, refresh.
So, I mean, Stefano, I think, is in a strong place for the third ascent.
Yeah, really as strong as pretty much anyone else, you'd say. The link from 2 to 5 was a really, really strong link. And kind of when you compare it to Will, who really, really struggled with that second move. And I think an interesting thing about Burden of Dreams is that it really seems as though every single move could be the crux for an individual climber. I think that Nalle really struggled with the first move. And then Will really struggled with the second move. It seems like Stefano is struggling with the first move again. I know that Toru found the second move, which Will struggled with a little bit easier. So it seems as though anything could be the crux. For Toru, it was the final move. It's a boulder with 5 moves and 15 cruxes.
Of all the moves you want to find the most difficult, the last move would be a gutting one.
Absolutely.
At least if it's going to be the first or second move, you're off early. But if you're falling off on move number 5,
heartbreaker.
Mortifying.
That's where I'd least like to fall off personally.
Yeah. So next up, Zah, who are the other contenders then? You mentioned Toru.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Toru, when I was speaking to Will, I thought that Toru had quite a lot of time on the boulder, but actually it turns out he's not had as much time as maybe Sean and Aidan have. But he looks pretty strong on it according to Will. Like I said, he controls that second move that Will found the crux really, really well. And Will said that he was able to help Toru a little bit with the final move. So Toru's definitely a contender.
He's got a replica as well, hasn't he?
He's got a replica, and I think he might now have a 3D printed replica, whereas previously it was a non 3D printed one. So he's stepping up his replica game.
And Sean Rabbitoux, of course.
Sean, if he hasn't already done it, then Sean's obviously a contender for the third ascent. We've seen his video on the boulder, so he's looking pretty strong as well. We've got Aidan Roberts as well. He is currently out in Switzerland, I think. He's focusing quite a lot on doing first ascents out there. I know that He's trying the right exit to Alphane at the moment, which is meant to be very, very, very hard. The harder version of that kind of boulder. So he's quite focused on that, but obviously he's been putting a lot of time in on the replica at the Lattice headquarters. So he's definitely a contender as well.
And finally, what next for Will? What tidbits did he give you when he chatted to you just the other week?
Multiple things on the horizon for Will. I know that he was really keen to get to Arco and try Excalibur, but I think that before he does that, he's going to be heading over to the US to try some hard boulders over there. I know that he's pretty keen to get on Megatron, which is...
I was just about to ask, do you know the names of any of these hard boulders?
Yeah,
Megatron is one we've heard of.
Megatron's a boulder that we've definitely heard of. That's Sean's second 9A. And I think that season-wise, it seems as though Megatron is going to be something that is kind of in prime conditions when he's over there, whereas Return of the Sleepwalker, perhaps less so. And the other thing that he might be up to is he kind of spoke a little bit about maybe an 8C flash or thinking about some boulders that might be contenders for 8C flashes. So it would be interesting to see if he
Be a nice grade
goes
to
for
flash.
that. Yeah, I'd take it. I'd take it.
So it's an exciting year. I mean, I feel like Nick, our cameraman, will kill us if we speak about Burden for another film. So it's good to. This feels like we've got closure on the whole thing, at least for now.
Yeah, we'll come back at the end of the year.
Next week.
Oh yeah.
But we've got closure on it now, and I am looking forward now to what Will does next, because I feel like this really has cemented his reputation at the absolute top end of modern bouldering, which is a pretty cool thing for British climber, Scottish climber.
For sure, he's up there, and he's kind of staking a claim for being top of the pile.
Legend.